Hello and what is up everyone, it is Hachi from the Art of Dota. In this video I'm going to be talking about how you want to approach the early game as a support Vengeful Spirit. As the creep waves meet, you really need to be mindful of the creep wave equilibrium. Notice my Luna blocked so that the range creep was in front, and that's really good as it's going to allow us to, shove the lane back under our tower a little bit. It's not really that important in this scenario because there is a tide that kind of shoves the lane anyway if he is in the lane because he's anchor smashing the creeps. But against other heroes that don't really do that, you're going to be wanting to make sure that the creep wave equilibrium is near your tower. And as soon as you realize the creep wave is pushing towards the enemy, you need to immediately get yourself to the small camp and pull it. If the creep wave is near your tower, you're going to have a lot of space to work with. You're going to have a lot of room to go for a kill. But if the creep wave is near the enemy tower, Vengeful is not a diving hero, and there's not much that you can do there. In addition, you can't even harass that much as you have pretty low range, and in addition to that, your base damage is kind of bad as well. So if the creep wave is near the enemy tower at all, don't even be anywhere near the creep wave. Just let your carry solo it at that point and try to pull the lane back. Do whatever it takes to pull the lane back. It's actually very difficult in this patch to regain control of the creep wave equilibrium. That's why it's so important that you make sure that your carry, or if you're blocking the creep wave, that you have the range creep of yours in front, so that that's just going to naturally cause the enemy creeps to push into your tower a little bit. Again, your carry also is responsible for maintaining the equilibrium, so that's not completely on you. So as soon as you realize if your carry is messed up somehow, there's like 2 range creeps on your side, you got to be in position. You got to get to your small camp and pull it. Again, that's the only way you're going to recover the equilibrium. And again, if the equilibrium is not near your tower, there's nothing you really can do as a Venge in the lane. You're kind of useless if the creep wave pushes too far out. You're not going to be able to go for kills. You're not going to be able to harass effectively. You're just kind of there sapping your carry's experience, and at that point you better off just leave the lane and look to gank mid or go to the off lane or something like that. As if that's the case and the creep wave is super far pushed, there's not much you can do in the lane at all other than potentially protect your carry if like they get ganked or something like that. But especially if there's only a solo offlaner, there's no other roaming hero or no other support in the lane, just leave the lane at that point if you're not going to be able to pull, if it's blocked or something like that. And that's pretty much it. Now, after you've secured the lane for your carry, by securing the lane, I mean that your carry is able to 1v1 against their offlaner, and even if a hero comes in and tries to gank, you're gonna be able to respond with a TP. So you're not that worried about leaving your carry alone. That's when you're gonna look to group up with your other 4-position hero and look to go make space somewhere else on the map, whether it's the mid lane or the enemy safe lane. Now, by making space, I don't mean blindly run at the enemy mid and try to go for kills over and over again. In some scenarios, that may be the case. You might be able to kill the enemy mid over and over again, and that's going to win you the game. But in certain games, the mid is going to be defended, right? There's going to be a support there. They might have a ward. So you have to be very cautious with your rotations. You don't want to just randomly die and just go all out trying for these kills. It's actually better that you just stay off the map, you're hidden, and you're there to respond in case something happens. So you're going to wait for the enemy mid to overextend. You're going to wait for maybe a support to be out of position, as this brew kind of is right now, but unfortunately is a little bit too strong for us to take out, and I almost get killed here, but I do barely manage to survive. And you're going to wait for those opportunities. Don't just show yourself randomly and try to go for kills just because you think you can. You have to wait for heroes to be out of position. Again, as I mentioned before, Venge is not the best diving hero. She's kind of low HP. Her range is not that good. So you're chasing for those last auto attacks to finish off the kill. Chances are you're not going to be able to finish off the kill, and the enemy hero is going to juke into the trees and get away. And that's why you have to pick and choose your engagements wisely. And you're better off playing in the fog and, feign the threat of a gank rather than ganking and failing. And in addition, it's actually okay for you to just stay in the trees. Just stay. I mean, you seem like you're doing nothing. And my go-to is if you're bored but the enemy feels like scared, you're doing the right thing. Right? If you're standing there, you don't feel like you're doing much. One thing you also can do in the meantime is stack camps. It's really good if you have heroes like Luna, Sven, Medusa, of course. So in the downtime, you're going to stack camps. You're going to stay off the map. What you don't want to do in the early game is just to sit in the lane and just show yourself constantly. Because you know what that's going to do? That's going to show the enemy team exactly where you are. And if they know exactly where you are, they're not afraid in their lane. If you're off the map, they're going to be scared. They're like, where is Venge? She could be in my lane, and they're going to play differently. And if they don't play differently, right, they overextend, they play aggressively, and you happen to be in position to go for a kill, then you're going to get that kill. Otherwise, just stay off the map, stay hidden, and wait for those opportunities. So, recapping back to the laning stage, early laning stage, you want to make sure the equilibrium is in a good spot. And if it's not in a good spot in your lane, you have to go pull. Or if you can't pull because your camp is blocked, you don't have a sentry yet to deward, just make something else happen on the map. Like go for a rune, secure the rune for your mid, go for a gank mid. But again, don't dive, don't put yourself in a bad position, don't go overboard. Ganking mid doesn't mean that you actually have to go to mid and kill them. It might just mean you stay there and wait for the mid to overextend, and then you go for the gank. You don't have to rush yourself at all. And that goes to my second point, which is just being patient, staying off the map, and putting a invisible threat on the enemy hero just by being off map. You don't have to always be ganking. You don't always have to be going for a kill. You're just going to stay off map, posture yourself in an aggressive position, and wait for the opportunity to go for a kill. Now, you may ask, what if you're just sitting there and you're not doing anything? What if the enemy heroes never get out of position? That's fine, because you're already putting that pressure onto them. You're forcing them to play differently. The Storm can't play as aggressively onto my Tinker if I'm just sitting somewhere in the fog. And in addition to that, you also have to make sure you're on point with your warding and your dewarding, so you can see enemy supports when they make a rotation, and you can catch them out when they're out of position. You also have to make sure that you deward, so you know that you're not standing directly on a ward and you're just looking silly, and they know exactly where you are. Because again, staying off the map, staying hidden is very important as Vengeful Spirit in the first, I would say, 8 minutes of the game pretty much. Now, back to the question of what happens if you feel like you're useless, you're going to get under farm if you do this. The answer to that is, if you're doing this properly, your carriers are eventually going to go jungle. They're eventually going to make something happen elsewhere on the map, maybe go for a gank. And that's when you're going to be able to just sit in the lane and sap the experience. You're not going to do this forever. You have to realize when you actually can provide a kill threat and when you can't anymore. And when your timing has ended, where you know that at this point the enemy cores are a little bit too strong, you're not going to be able to kill them as easily, that's when you're going to sit in the lane, you're going to show yourself, and you're going to secure yourself some levels so you actually can get your ultimate up. Because having your ultimate come mid game is very important, as it's going to be your main job pretty much to just sit in a position to save your carry using your swap, or to swap an enemy out of position using your ultimate to get a kill. It's basic support mechanics, so it goes down to securing your carries farm with a good control of the creep wave equilibrium using pulls, and after that it's just staying off the map, being in an aggressive or potentially a defensive position. But again, you want to stay out of enemy vision because it's going to keep them guessing. If you're in enemy vision, it's going to make it very easy for them to play the game because they know that Venge is just sitting there and they don't have to be afraid of her. But if you're off the map, they don't know where you are, and at any point you can show up and make something happen. Also, always make sure to have a TP so you can respond to potential dives in other lanes. Don't be afraid to be a little bit under leveled on Venge. She does a lot, trust me, in the early game with minimal levels as long as you're in the right position. So if you're in the wrong position and getting levels, that's actually hurting your team more than if you're under leveled and in the right position. So just remember that when playing Venge in the early game, and when playing most supports in the early game. This goes with supports like Earthshaker and things like that as well. A lot of people feel like you need to be greedy, you need to get your mana boots up, you gotta get your ultimate up. No, that's not the case. In the early game, first 10 minutes, just play in good positions, and it's gonna be dictated on where the enemy heroes are. So consider where their movement is, where their potential movement is, where you can get good ganks off, play around your 4 position, and then you're going to get your levels later on. When your cores are strong, they're going to make ganks happen, they're going to make push happens, and that's going to catch you up in terms of farm and levels. That's going to be it for now, and I hope you guys learned a lot from this. Again, this is basic support mechanics, basic supporting, and again, Venge is a very standard support hero. So a lot of things that she does as a hero is in common with a lot of other support heroes as well. So that's going to be it, and peace out.